Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For podcast. Wednesday night, back to our normal time, 9 o'clock Central. I guess it's not daylight savings, so is it standard time now? I don't know what it is. But 9 o'clock here in Iowa, and we're ready to go. Trevor is back. My voice is still not here, but we're going to make do the best we can.
Yeah, you're struggling a little bit, but no, it's been a few weeks. We had a family get together, obviously in San Diego. Nephew graduating from the Marines basic training, so that was a lot of fun. That was a great experience to be there. My brother actually came into Vegas for a day too. He'd never been to Vegas, so got to show him around a little bit. Got to make his first sports bet, and then we drove to San Diego, and it was a good time. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've never been to San Diego. I just picture it as beautiful and just perfect weather, and a lot of the history of the Navy and military and Marines. Probably not too much of a better spot this time of year.
No, it was mid-70s every day. It gets a little chilly at night, though. Most people may not expect that. So at nighttime, most people want to have jeans and a jacket on. But yeah, it's a beautiful part of California. If I'm not rich enough to live there, but if I was, I definitely would like to have a place. But yeah, seeing the nephew graduate, pretty emotional. It was cool. Got to spend a couple days there on the base. They had a family day, and I know when he finally got to see all of us, he was pretty excited to eat. I know his mom had some homemade cookies and then Monster energy drinks ready to go, because I don't know when the last time he had one of those. So it was a good few days. Then he got some time off, and I believe today, I think he was actually heading back. They got I think like a 10-day break it was. So I'm sure he had a good time and time to get back at it for him.
So how old is he? Did he go
19, I believe.
So right out of high school, he went
Mm-hmm.
into the Marines, and that's awesome. I did not do that. My dad did not do that. But for people that do that and want to do that, we definitely owe them a huge debt of gratitude. And, people I have known, some of my students and stuff have went in, and they love it. And I truly respect that. And to make a career out of it, it's just a great thing.
Yeah, massive amount of respect. Already had a bunch before that, but then once you're there on site and see everything and get to hear all the stories, it's an eye opener for sure.
Did you ever have any want to do that or anything? I did not. I mean, I just wasn't in my cards.
Not much. No. I mean, when you're in junior high and high school, the recruiters come around and you think about it, but it was never really a serious thought for me.
Yeah, me neither. All right, let's go to our main topics. We're going to start with Iowa at Oregon in the biggest game in Kinnick Stadium in around 10 years. You can make some different arguments. When Iowa's ranked number 2 in 2021 or whatever that was, when Penn State came to town, I think Iowa was like 5-0, 6-0, and kind of when they were turning it around a little bit, but then they got blown out. They've had a couple opportunities, but overall, teams like this have not been to Kinnick Stadium. Just the way the schedule works, they don't play Ohio State very often, and then even less often in Kinnick. Penn State was supposed to be like this, but obviously not. So this is a huge opportunity. Now the weather looks bad, 46, 45 degrees and rain and wind. Ducks are used to that too. I mean, Oregon's, more temperate, maybe warmer, but cool and wet is what they deal with out there as well. So it's not a huge issue in my opinion there. The wind is a big deal. So that will affect both teams, the kicking game like that. But Mark Gronowski and his legs is going to be a huge part of this game. And then the other thing is, how good is Oregon? We don't know. Penn State's god-awful. That's probably, on paper, their best win is at Northwestern. Probably overall in the scheme of things at Penn State, when Penn State was ranked number 2, is their best win. But Penn State is 0-5 in the Big Ten. probably going to be 0-6 after this week against Indiana. So, I mean, they still haven't – I don't think Penn State's actually beat a Division I opponent yet, or a true Power 4 opponent yet. I think their wins are against, mid-majors. Iowa, the 2 losses against a very different Iowa State team than is playing right now, and then a very close woulda, coulda, shoulda against Indiana, who I think has an argument to be the best team in the country. You really can't argue with Ohio State being there, but Indiana just proves it week in, week out. They destroy everybody. They probably have the best win overall at Oregon. And we're going to find out real soon. College football playoffs came out, rankings came out. There was some respect for Iowa, number 20. Everything is in front of them. I haven't completely named this episode yet, but Hawkeyes and hope is going to be involved in this. The hope is there, and it's not just the football team. We're going to talk about the basketball team later in the episode as well. Hope is all over the Hawkeye campus right now and Hawkeye fans. Trev?
Yeah, the weather, like you said, Oregon's used to rain and wind, maybe not quite this cold at this time of the year. Most people think, when they think of Oregon, they think high-flying offense and passing, but Oregon's a little bit more of a running team. So that's I do think it favors Iowa slightly, though, because it's going to probably force Oregon to be one-dimensional, and we know Iowa pretty much is one-dimensional. So it turns into one of those type of games. Over-under, I think, is 40.5 right now. I'm predicting like a weird 16-15 type game, 13-11, one of those weird scores, because, again, everything's going to be a factor. The crowd, the weather, the wind. Iowa's used to playing field position games. That's their bread and butter. So I think if Iowa can score 2 touchdowns, however it comes, offense, defense, special teams, Iowa's going to have a real chance to win this game. They for sure probably got to get 1. I don't know if 4 or 5 field goals will get it done in this type of game. But if Gronowski can get the running game going, I mean, I don't know what point you would set Iowa needs to get to for sure to win. If Iowa could get to 20, I'd feel pretty good, given their offensive defense line and the weather. But, everything's right in front of Iowa. They were ranked 20th. Obviously, if you win this, you got a few games left. At USC is going to be really a tough one. And then, Nebraska at the end of the year doesn't look as tough now with Raiola out. So, hope is there, like you said, and we'll get into the men's and women's basketball. But it's a big game. It's exciting. Looking forward to it. Wish I could get back to go to it, because this would be one I'd love to get back for.
Yeah, this is one you want to be in the stadium. If you're a Hawkeye fan and you have the ability to go to this game and you just choose not to, I don't know what you're waiting for. I don't understand. I mean, this is why you are a fan. This is why you cheer on your color, your laundry. This is all you want. Everything is in front of you. Obviously, like you're thousands of miles away. But if you're sitting here in southern Iowa or southeast Iowa and you have the resources and the ability to, which not everybody does, I understand that. But if it's just, the weather's going to be bad, I'm not going. Well, that's not being a very good fan. Go be a fan. Go support your team. This is what it's for. It just drives me nuts that, last week, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but last Saturday was one of the worst Saturdays to be an Iowa State fan and be in Jack Trice Stadium ever, and especially in the last 25 years that I've been a part of Iowa State football. And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And maybe I'm different. Maybe I'm weird. I probably am. But when you're a fan of a team, there's nothing better than being there.
Yeah, it'll be a great environment. Sold out already, so not surprising there. The crowd's going to really be into it. Of course, I'd love for it to be a night game, but still be an afternoon kick. Yeah, these are the type of games, when Penn State comes to town, usually that's our big ranked opponent a lot of times. Michigan's come in a couple times as a ranked team. Obviously, Ohio State years ago where Iowa blew them out, which that doesn't happen very often. But, this is it's the biggest game of the year. along with Indiana. We almost had Indiana, of course. That would have been nice. But we proved that we can probably play with Oregon, at least, going previewing the game. So I think Iowa's going to have a real chance. And this is the type of game situation that Iowa thrives. I think Iowa's 5-2 at Kinnick since whatever year I saw something before we got on versus top 5 or top 10 ranked teams at Kinnick Stadium. So this is where top 10 teams come to die in these situations. And again, the weather is going to favor Iowa, but not by a ton like we were just talking about. Oregon is a little bit more of a running team. So it's going to be a battle of the trenches and, of course, ball security. And
yeah, that's huge.
And Iowa's gotten a lot better as the season's gone on, starting to get more of the turnovers, big special teams play. Can Weeja make a big play? But again, I think if Iowa can find a way to get 2 touchdowns, however that we don't care, just
right.
get score 2 touchdowns and then knock on wood, you make the extra point. That gives you 14 points there. I think Iowa's going to have a real chance.
Yeah. And then you just assume they're going to get a couple field goals. So that gets you to that 20, as you put it. I think that's close. This isn't the Chip Kelly Oregon team. Like you don't, they're not, running a play every 20 seconds. They're not throwing it all over. They're really good up front, and they are going to try to pound you. And it's with the weather, it's going right into it. This game is going to be turnovers. I really believe that. Whoever wins the turnover battle, which again, you can say, well, at 90% of the time that's true. And it is. But with the weather, this big of a game, turnovers are huge. You cannot turn it over and give Oregon an easy field, or vice versa. If you're Oregon, you can't let Iowa score on a pick six to get that crowd into it. That place is going to be nuts. That place it's going to be as loud as you can be for a 2:30 kick. This is their chance. They run the table and they're finished 10-2. They've got a chance. And that's all you can ask for. Just like Iowa State last year. They were, at the end of the regular season, they were 10-2, went to the Big 12 championship game, had a chance. That's all you want. Now, Iowa's going to be 10-2 and, most likely not have a chance to get to the Big 10 title game. So they're not going to have that third loss like Iowa State did. That just, if they lost, it was over. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they get in even at 10-2, it just depends on who does what. Right now the Big 12 looks to have maybe 2 teams with a really good chance. But if one of them gets upset, that's out. It's one. Notre Dame loses a game, they're out. And that just moves Iowa or USC or Washington or Michigan up in the Big 10. And that's what's crazy. We still have a lot of football. And for the most part, it usually works itself out where there's not too many arguments. There always is that 13th team or 12th team argument. Always is. And there always will be. But overall, there's not usually a ton of arguments because it did work itself out. There's still 4 weeks left. A full 4 weeks left of college football.
Yeah, and one last thing for the game specifically is, can Oregon be patient more the quarterback or does he take some chances that he shouldn't early? If this is a 6-3 game going into the fourth, can Dan Lanning and that quarterback be patient? Because we know Kirk Ferentz and Iowa will. Yep. They'll be patient until the final 3 or 4 minutes and wait for Oregon to make a mistake or get a turnover. So I think patience will be a key there. If Iowa runs the table, they would obviously have beaten Oregon and USC down the stretch. So I believe they'd have the tiebreakers over them because then Oregon and USC would both have 2 Big 10 losses.
Right.
Correct. So they'd have the tiebreaker there. So I think if Iowa runs the table, they would for sure. No, not for sure, but I think they most likely would get in.
I agree.
But they got to go 4-0. Obviously, if they finish 9-3, not getting in. Nope. We understand that. So, but a chance to go 4-0. That's just about all you can ask for. And then I know you were kind of talking about the playoff, and the rankings came out yesterday. Did you have any big takeaways or any real disagreements with it? I thought for the most part it was pretty good.
They did pretty good. The Big 12 has to be really happy. They have 3 teams in the top 13. So, if projected out, Utah, who's kind of the outside looking in right now, just keeps winning. Just keep winning. They'll sneak in over whoever loses that. Let's just say Texas Tech wins Saturday. So they both have 1 loss. Then those 2 teams play again, BYU and Texas Tech in the Big 12 title game. So one of them has 2 losses, especially if it's Texas Tech. You have a Texas Tech and a Utah with 2 losses, and Texas Tech beat, but it's just, you never know. You just have to win. And if you have 2 losses or less, you've got a real shot, because the argument then is going to be a 10-2 Utah or 10-2 BYU, Texas Tech, whoever it is, versus a 9-3 SEC team. I mean, that's what it's going to be, the argument. Do you want 2 teams from the Big 12, or do you want 5 or 6 teams from the SEC? That's going to be the argument. And then obviously Notre Dame throws – if Notre Dame wins out, they're in. But if they lose, they're out. So, I mean, the argument against Notre Dame is their best games are losses. They don't have a good win. They're kind of like Oregon. They don't have a good win. I mean, USC is a pretty good win, but if USC would happen to, let's say USC would lose to Iowa and lose to Oregon, well, then that's not a good win either, So USC has a lot to say about what happens as well in this for the Big Ten, because they have to play Iowa and Oregon. So they could, Iowa beats Oregon, but then USC beats Iowa. Washington has an argument there. I think Washington plays USC and Oregon still.
Oregon's got Iowa, USC, and Washington left.
Yeah. So, and then, if Oregon runs the table, then they're going to be about, number 3 in the country. They might be the top 3 teams in the country, being from the Big Ten. And I wouldn't argue that. I mean, because that's 3 really good games.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I thought the big winner. Well, there was 2 things. I thought the Big 12 was a winner, having 2 teams right there, and then obviously the big losers were the ACC, because it's pretty clear the ACC is probably only getting 1 team in this year.
Yeah, and right now it's Virginia. I mean, if it ended today, it's the SMU beat Miami really, really hurt, and then obviously Georgia Tech getting beat. I don't think Georgia Tech was real good anyway, but they were undefeated. And if you're undefeated, and they would have, been undefeated, and then they would have had a chance against Georgia at the end of the year to really show that they, proved it. And then it wouldn't have mattered if they won or lost. If they'd have been undefeated going into the ACC championship game with the win over Georgia, they'd have been in no matter what. Now they have to win the ACC, which they still can. Miami's got 2 losses they shouldn't. But, obviously the biggest, Florida State and Clemson being just a no-show is just killing the ACC.
Yeah, it's definitely hurt them. Florida State getting that win over Alabama early was big. We thought maybe Florida State would be back. Of course, Clemson played LSU tough that first game of the season. We thought that was a quote-unquote good loss, and then Clemson's just crapped the bed since, basically. So, and LSU's got their own problems as well, firing Brian Kelly and all that. So, I didn't have a lot of problems with the playoff bracket.
Nope.
Notre Dame's they've got Navy, and then they're at Pitt.
Yep.
And then I think they've got Boston College and Stanford left maybe to end the season. So they've got their 2 quote-unquote tough games back-to-back coming up here. They're going to be favored. I think they'll probably win, but I know everybody outside of Notre Dame is hoping that they lose, because then that just opens up another spot for the playoffs.
Yeah. But I don't know how much you watch Barstool, but Brandon Walker's pretty funny. I like listening to him. And they do a pick where talk if you see a quarterback better than Johnny Manziel, or I'm sure you've seen those. And this was, talk if this team can win the national championship. And, Alabama, Texas A&M. They didn't think Texas A&M would, but they were like, they have a chance. But Notre Dame was the lowest ranked team that they thought had a chance. They're like, Indiana, Ohio State, A&M, Notre Dame. And that's really about it. That's all they thought would have a chance to win the national championship.
Yeah, I've seen those videos that you're talking about. A lot of people do those. The Barstool guys. The problem is they talk. He talks.
Yeah, they talk the whole. That's kind of the whole point. Is you're not supposed to talk, and they talk the whole time. It's really funny.
Yeah, as someone who's got I've got future tickets on Ohio State, Bama, and or Notre Dame to win the national title. So things for me are looking better with Bama and Notre Dame than they were early in the season.
Yeah,
I thought there was
after week 1, you were in a world of hurt.
Well, and then Notre Dame loses again, so I'm thinking. Yeah. I was thinking, man, 2 of them might not even make the playoffs, which would be a little surprising. And now they both have a chance to get in. But no, I like that they've gone to 12 teams. I think it makes it a little bit more fun. Like you said, Iowa State last year had a chance. Under the old format, Iowa would already be automatically out unless they somehow had a road to get to the Big Ten championship, which this year they don't. But this gives them a chance, though, to go 4-0 and have a chance to be selected to get in. So I do like the new 12-team format. I don't know if I really want them to expand. You and I both believe it's going to. But, year in and year out, it is going to make it fun for, all those teams outside the top 10 to about 25. They know that there's different avenues for those fan bases to get in the playoffs. So it makes it a little bit more exciting toward the end of the season rather than worrying about, what bowl game you're going to. You're worried about if you can make the playoff or not. We'll worry about the bowl game later.
Yeah. Yeah. If they expand, all it does is it'll just bring 9 and 3 into play for teams like Iowa. So then you could lose this game as long as you win the others. Then you're in that conversation. If you're 10-2 and there's 16-team playoff and you're in the Big Ten, you're in. No questions asked. I mean, it's not even a debate, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just the real question is what number are they going to go to next?
Yep.
And what's the final number? Are they going to go to 16 and then 5 years later go to 20 and then 24?
Yep.
Because we know more money is going to be involved. So that's really the next question. But no, it's a big game Saturday, and I know we want to talk a little bit about Iowa State, of course.
Yeah.
And I was with the Trimmels in Vegas, and we were kind of watching that game, but we were more interested in Texas Vanderbilt. Zach had a nice little win there on that one. So we didn't get to watch all the Iowa State game. I know there was a scary moment, but I'm going to let you speak more on that because I didn't see much outside like 10 plays.
Yeah, so it was just Iowa State's just not a good football team. It's that simple. Their defense is just ravaged by injury. We lost another linebacker out for the year, announced yesterday at the press conference. We're playing true freshmen now because now we're at the point of the year where they can play and you can redshirt them still. On defense, we just don't have the players. We lost our 2 all-conference corners. We're playing true freshmen. They're just not as good. It's just that simple. Our linebackers, we're just rotating in guys in and out. Guys are always hurt. D-line, they do okay. They don't get a pass rush. But even when they're healthy, they don't get a pass rush. So we don't have a dude on the end like Will McDonald to go get him. We don't have that dude. So defensively, I think we don't have as good of players as we need to have a legit top 10 defense like we've had in the past. Everybody wants to talk about the scheme, the 3-3-5. It is what it is. It's good when you have the players. But it is definitely weak when you don't have the players. Offensively, our quarterback is a problem. And that's hard to say because he's our leader. He makes our team tick, but he's not playing well. I think it comes back to when he got hit against Arizona and went into the concussion tent or the injury tent and came running back out right at, he actually ran straight onto the field. They actually had to pull him back for a play. He's not been the same since. Then he got hit really hard again the next week against Cincinnati. Obviously if he's got a concussion or a head injury, he wouldn't be playing. I mean, they're not going to do that. But I would say he has an injury, shoulder, leg, kind of just some type of injury that isn't allowing him to be as fundamental, his footwork, whatever, to be as good as he can be because he's just a hair off. And then when he makes a great throw, we drop it. Our receivers are not as good. And this is a fair discussion argument. We had two really, really good receivers the last couple of years. Did they cover up some of his deficiencies? Mm-hmm. Maybe he was a hair off with them, but they still caught it. He knew if he just threw it to them, they would probably catch it. So maybe he didn't have to read the defenses as well. He knew where they were going to be, and he could just throw it up to either one of them, and they'd go get it. That's a fair discussion point. And when you're a place like Iowa State and you have 2 second, third round picks, you can't replace them right away. So maybe we don't have the dudes on offense either, that we've had. So overall, we're just not as good a football team as we need to be. And then we make more penalties than we've ever had in the last 5 years under Campbell. We make bonehead plays in the too many turnovers. So it's hard to watch. And then, obviously the injury to Ben Bramer, you saw it. He was slow to get up, and then he just collapsed. And I heard actually it was worse to watch on TV than it was at the game because obviously I guess they were zoomed right into him. I have searched everywhere, and maybe it's just me. I can't figure it out, which very much could be. But I've tried to find the TNT coverage of the game, and I cannot find it. You can find a highlight package. You can find, the quick 60-minute clip, but I want to just watch the game. And I can't find it on TNT or HBO Max, whatever it is. Maybe I don't have the right package. But between all my packages I have, we have YouTube TV, we have Dish Network. We've got it all. I think I would be able to find it, but I cannot find it. So I have not been able to watch the TV replay, but I guess they were zoomed right into him. And just to be honest, and the way they reacted, it looked like he died right on the field. That's what it looked like. Mm-hmm. Like he started to walk back, and he just stumbled and just collapsed. I mean, he passed out. I mean, he went unconscious, passed out. And then as soon as he was on the ground, there's a trainer right there, put the X above his hands, and, that cart was out there in a minute. Never seen anything like it. Now, the only good thing, like you could see, and the cart was between where my seats were and him, but you never saw them grab like the breathing thing, or they weren't doing CPR on him. So that was always a good thing. You could tell they weren't doing that. And I guess as he was, going off the field, he gave a thumbs up. Now he was strapped down to the board, so it wasn't like a big thumbs up or anything. And then it was crazy. He got out of the hospital that night. I mean, Campbell talked about yesterday at the press conference where, by the time he got done doing the press and talking to the team and everything, he went over to the hospital and he was getting discharged. And yesterday, it's not his head and it's not his heart. Some of the things I've heard that it could have, but they wouldn't say what it was, which that's on Ben Bramer himself to allow it to be released. Or maybe Iowa State just isn't going to release it. It's either one of their choices. But what I've been heard or people have talked about, that if you get hit in the liver just right, I guess this happens in boxing and MMA, it's a delayed reaction, and your body just kind of gives out for a few seconds. And I mean, essentially you're fine, but just for like 10 seconds, you just pass out. I don't know. Never heard of that before. Never seen that before. But at 9 o'clock, I should look just to see what it says for the injury report. It came out at 9 o'clock tonight. But, the Cyclone Fanatic guys and everything said, like, he's probably not going to play this week. But medically, he actually probably could. It's more of a maybe should he, which is unbelievable. And that's a great thing. And I've been to a lot of stadiums, and I've been to Iowa State a lot of times in my life. You literally could hear everybody talking on the field, everything that was being said. It was so quiet. No one was saying a word in that stadium. I mean, now, I think I don't know if it was announced. It was pretty full when it started, but the weather sucked. It was 45 degrees and it was raining, and it was after halftime. You know how Iowa State is. They all go out at halftime and start drinking, and a lot of people didn't come back, which is what it is. That's a whole different argument. So it was probably 65% full, and it was silent, and it was eerie. And like you said, it looked like he died. I mean, that's just what it looked like. And he's one of our best players. And I get so pissed. He's our best guy. He's 6'6". He's a great athlete. We have trouble scoring touchdowns, and it's 2nd and 2 from the 2-yard line, and we're taking him off the field on personnel deals. Like, dude, throw him the freaking ball. He's 6'6". We have Gabe Burkle who's 6'6". Bramer 6'6", 6'7". Throw it up to those guys. Just, if you're not going to run it in, throw it to them. And I get so frustrated at taking him out because he's an NFL tight end. Burkle's an NFL tight end, and we try to throw it to these other guys that just drop the ball, or we run it up the middle 3 times and we never score a touchdown.
Yeah, so like I said, we were with the Tremble sitting at Tom's Watch Bar, New York, and that Iowa State game was on the small TV, and we noticed for a while that nothing. It was just commercials forever, and then I looked at my chat with the guys, and somebody said that like somebody died on the field. Well, when you first read something like that, you think they're being sarcastic a little bit, and maybe just a hard hit, and then we're watching, and finally it comes back, and then we see the situation. So yeah, definitely a scary situation like that. I could imagine you could hear the trainers and everybody on the field. I mean, it would be silent, it'd be eerie, kind of the DeMar Hamlin thing, but not quite the same, of course. Right. So glad he's fine, and yeah, just a scary situation, but glad he's okay, and potentially it sounds like can play again this year. Now you just need your coach to use the tight ends like Iowa would. It sounds like there's a little bit of your frustration here.
Well, we can't score a touchdown, and you got 6'6" guys and throw it to him. It's not, maybe don't throw it to him, but at least use him as a decoy or have him in the game instead of your 3 other guys. That's my thing, is just we take out our best guys and put in our not best guys. It just drives me nuts.
Well, glad he's okay, and a scary situation was all it was. It was just a scare thing.
Yeah, and that's lucky, and it was a scare, and that's kind of how Matt Campbell portrayed it. It's just a scary situation. But yeah, just not good at all. And you do realize how fragile and ultimately how meaningless the actual football game is. If something really happened to him, that football game, and it sucks. It sucks right now being a Cyclone football fan. Not felt this way in years. Since 2022, we've not lost 4 games in a row. Again, Arizona State's pretty good. BYU is really good. Cincinnati's pretty good. The Colorado loss sucks because they are god-awful. You can make an argument the other 3 teams are better than Iowa State, but Colorado is not. And it's just frustrating. And I do think it is simply we have too many guys injured, and our dudes behind them aren't good enough. And that sucks. And we have a new strength coach. This is his 2nd year. And you have to question it a little bit, why everybody's getting hurt. Last year, we were down to like our 9th linebacker. This year, we're on our 7th and 8th D-back. Something is going on. That isn't a coincidence. I don't care what anybody says. It's not. When it's the same type of bodies that keep getting hurt over and over and over. So it just stinks. It is basketball season.
Let's transition to happier times with Iowa and Iowa State basketball, because I feel like that's a more positive conversation for both.
Oh yeah, I mean, Iowa State basketball, they beat. I don't even know who they beat. Doesn't matter. Fairleigh Dickinson by 40-some points. Milan Momcilovic went 7 for 10 from 3. Blowout city. They play Grambling State tomorrow. It'll be blowout city. But I think the biggest talker is the Iowa basketball program and how different they look in just one game. Now, this is another thing of mine. I'm disappointed in Hawkeye basketball fans as well. 9,000 sold seats yesterday, but heard it was only like 5,000 actually there. This isn't Fran McCaffrey. You got what you wanted. You got the new coach. You got him. You got who you wanted. You got probably the best coach available that was ready to do your job, ready for your job. I think he's better than Darren DeVries. I think he is.
Vince was at the game. He said the student section was awesome, so he was happy.
Not the students were fine, and they moved him down closer. It looked good, absolutely. But just overall, it was bad. You should not only have 5,000 people for opening game with a new coach and a new team that should be pretty good. It's not like they're projected to be dead last in the Big Ten. They're not. They're a fringe tournament team. And Bennett Sturts is the man. I don't care what anybody says. He is the man. And he made it. He looked like it again yesterday. And he looked at it like it at Northwest Missouri State. He did it at Drake, and he's doing it at Iowa, and he'll do it in the NBA. Now, he probably won't be the man in the NBA, but he'll be an NBA guy.
Yeah, he was fun to watch in the past 3 or 4 years. I really haven't paid attention to Iowa men, of course, under the Fran term there. Just it felt like it'd run its course the last few seasons. So I really was excited. Last night I watched most of the game after the college football playoff show. So there's some. I know Bennett Sturts, of course, obviously with Josh Sash being there on the coaching staff. But it's exciting. You know, I've got some players I've got to learn. But the good news is I'm probably going to be watching just about every game, unlike the past few years. And I think for Iowa fans, you know, outside the student sections, once they rack up a few more wins, I think the momentum will build. And I think the stadium will start being sold out a little bit. But it's one of those things that you and Zach talked about at the end of last season or whenever it was, is, you know, with Iowa State women being good and Iowa was so poor, it may take a little bit for the fans to commit again on a, you know, Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday night during the week compared to the weekends. But I think the fans, as time goes on, because Iowa should be pretty good. Like you said, I'd actually be pretty disappointed if they don't make the tournament, given all the players that they brought over. That was a tournament team last year, of course. That was pretty good. So I think the fans will pick up. You would like to see more there on the first night, I agree. But it's exciting, though. It hasn't been exciting for Iowa men in quite some time.
Yeah, and that's now, you know, I don't know when they play again, but let's say they play tomorrow night against, you know, Pine Valley State or whatever. I would understand the 5,000 people, but not on opening night. That's the thing that I get it. You know, I just don't understand the opening night with a new coach. You know your team's good. You know they're good because they've proven it at other places. And that's you know, maybe that's the Iowa State homer in me that Hilton sells out almost. You know, the only year we didn't was COVID, and thankfully it was COVID and they sucked balls. They went 2-20 or whatever they did. So you couldn't go and you wouldn't have went anyway. So you had a good excuse. You couldn't go watch them anyway.
Looks like Iowa plays Friday against Western Illinois. So a Friday night, you know, people are done with work. I'm sure there'll be some more fans there. And especially, you know, now that they got that first big win, they played really well, you know, not shocking, of course. So, yeah, I would hope that the stands are going to be more full on Friday night and, of course, moving forward throughout the season.
Yeah. And you would think, you know, there's a lot of people that probably come in Friday after work for the Hawkeye football game and come and stay all night and make it a weekend, and now they just go to the game. You do have, I'm pretty sure Iowa City Liberty, and I can't remember if West is still playing, but there are football games, high school football games Friday night still. I know Liberty is playing. I believe West is still playing as well. They might have got beat, but I can't remember if they won or lost. But I know Iowa City Liberty is still playing. They play Southeast Polk in the quarterfinals. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's at Liberty, so it'll be there in the Iowa City area.
Yeah, they'll have to compete with that a little bit. And it looks like the Iowa women, they don't play again maybe till Sunday, I believe it is, which makes sense because of the football game on Saturday. And, of course, Iowa men playing on Friday. So, no, it's exciting times for the Iowa men, though. Like I said, everything that I've read, seeing the team last year in the tournament, and then, of course, how they played on this opening night, I would be disappointed right now if they don't make the tournament.
I would agree. I think they need to be in that conversation the entire time. He's one of those coaches that just wins. He won at Northwest. He won his 1 year at Drake. And I do think he wasn't necessarily looking to go. It just happened that the Iowa job opened this year. If Fran would have kept his job one more year, I do think he still would have been at Drake and then maybe leave after 2 years or whatever it is. I think, he's from Iowa. He was a Hawkeye fan. That job hasn't been open in 15 years. He's 45 years old, 46 years old, whatever he is. So think about 15 years. He was only a 30-year-old coach. He wasn't ready to be Iowa basketball coach. So in the last 10 years or 7 years that he's maybe been ready for that job, it's not been open. So it's not his fault. When it was, he was able to get it and took it, and he'll do a good thing. And it's, as an Iowa State fan, I'm not happy that he's there because he's going to make Iowa better. Iowa's going to be a much better team. Now, Fran beat Iowa State. I mean, it wasn't they didn't, but for whatever reason, the fans didn't like him, his style of play, just his demeanor. So you knew you could always, they were going to have a different type of player than Iowa State did. They just did. They recruited differently. They didn't go against, maybe a few Iowa kids they recruited against each other, but they weren't recruiting against each other a lot, I don't think. I think McCollum will recruit the same type of players Iowa State does. And so that's going to be a little more difficult, especially if you get a kid out of Des Moines or, Ames or Iowa City where, hey, Iowa State's the way better program. Iowa State's going to go to the Sweet 16. Well, you give McCollum these resources he's never had before. We'll see. And I think he will do that. Now, Sweet 16, that becomes a little bit of luck and just matchups and everything else like that. But he's the right guy for Iowa. I really believe that.
Yeah, and you mentioned his age too. If he does a good job, I think like most of us think he's going to do, he could be there for 15, 20 years. Yep. I mean, I don't know if he's got a dream job, above Iowa. Of course, I mean, right. You've always got the NBA looming for any college coach. There's the professional level, but I don't know off the top of my head if he'd want to do that. But I'm sure he's at least going to be at Iowa a minimum 5 to 6 years.
Yep.
Worst case scenario, more than likely, hopefully 10, 15, maybe 20 if he does a really good job. So, yeah, it's exciting times for Iowa men. Of course, the Iowa women, just real quick on them, they looked good as well. Ava Hayden looks like she's going to be a problem all season long. She's really good. So now Iowa has both the men and the women's team on the right track. And, of course, Iowa State already has. And I know Audie Crook I was pulling up her stat line from tonight. She had a big game for the Iowa State women.
Yeah, I saw they played Southern, who Iowa women beat the other night, beat them by like 29, 30 points, whatever it was. Iowa State is picked to finish second in the league. So they should be back. They upgraded a point guard from Emily Ryan was steady 5-year starter, steady Eddie, but they got this girl from Arizona State. I can't remember which one. That just brings a little more juice and a little bigger, a little faster, a little stronger, just a better basketball player. Maybe not as better a leader. Emily Ryan's coaching, went straight to Iowa State. She's coaching. And I'm sure that's helping the new point guard. If you can get the great player to play with a coach mentality, now you got something.
Yeah, and you've got another year of experience for Audie Crooks and some of those other players. They've obviously made the tournament, so they've got all that under their belts. It should be a big year for Iowa State, and like you said, potentially an upgrade at point guard, which can make them even more dangerous come tournament time.
Yeah, that's what you need to do, because the difference is when she drives into the lane, she'll score. Emily Ryan just would dribble it back out or kick out for a three. Now you've got the threat of scoring, getting a layup, so maybe. Now they'll maybe crash on her, and now you can kick out for even more open three because they won't be expecting it as much. So,
yeah, and Iowa's got a I can't think of her name. They call her Chit Chats, our new point guard from Georgia Tech, I think it is, or wherever. So all I know is they call her Chit Chat. So I'm going to try to start watching the games here on whatever platforms they are. Of course, that's a big deal right now with football and ESPN and Disney. and Pat McAfee went on a rant. I know we're getting a little sidetracked here, but
No,
it's tough to keep track of where everything's at with all these sports.
Well, and that's so the Big 12 basketball is absolutely nuts. Brent Bloom from Cyclone Fanatic and Iowa State, he if you just count ESPN as one, I think Iowa State is scheduled to be on 7 different platforms. And that doesn't include ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, whatever ones you might have. But it's like ESPN, Peacock, CBS, NBC, Fox, FS1. I mean, it's just crazy what you all have to have. And, we all thought we were being geniuses by cutting the cord. Well, one, you can't get in and out of these. You can't go from channel to channel like you could on like Mediacom or Dish or whatever. And then the other thing is now you have to have ones beyond that, even if you have those. Now, is what it is between myself, my brother, and my parents. We have them all. We kind of split who pays for what.
Everybody does that.
Yep. And they are cracking down. Every once in a while, I'll try to log into one. And you have too many activities, or is this your home household? Yes. They are trying to do that a little bit, but the YouTube TV. Laura brought that with her. I'd never had that. Laura has that. It is nice because that is much more like your basic Dish, everything else like that, instead of the Roku or Fire Stick, where you can go from channel to channel and you go. Now, obviously, you lost all the Disney channels, there with all the ESPNs and I heard McAfee went off. I have not heard it, and I know he obviously works for ESPN, but he doesn't really care. And I need to find that. Listen to that.
There's some website out there that bring back my football or save my football or something.com. Scott Van Pelt and other guys were telling people to go to it. And Pat was pretty much like, shut up. People don't want to hear you saying this. Just get this figured out. And of course they're going to. They have to, right? There's so much money involved, you would think. But he was basically calling out all the people at ESPN to stop making people go to another website, another streaming platform, because people are just tired of it.
Well, what's happening is here's what's happening. ESPN's being greedy. Yes, Google. And the problem is you've got Disney, which is ESPN, versus Google, 2 of the biggest companies in the world. Google is huge, huge, huge. Who owns YouTube TV, and then Disney, who owns ESPN. What ESPN is doing, they're trying to get people to go to that ESPN One app or whatever. That's what they want people to buy. So they're okay with not being on YouTube TV. Don't kid yourself. And ESPN has done this. Essentially, what's happening is Disney/ESPN has been able to dominate and essentially Mediacom, Dish Network, whatever, been able to tell them whatever they want to charge, whatever they want to charge, because if you don't have it on our thing, it'll be fine. Well, Google is finally big enough to say, screw you guys. We don't have to have you. We cannot have ESPN and we'll still make money. Google doesn't care about ESPN. Now, deep down, they want them. But in the big scheme of things of making money, Google doesn't need ESPN, Disney. Google will make money just fine. Now, their YouTube TV part of it will lose money, but Google itself will still make money. So that's why ESPN is mad, is because they finally found a different. There's companies out there, which Apple, Google, Netflix, that have bigger pockets than they do, that can tell them to go get in the corner and shut up and do what we say. And ESPN doesn't like it.
Yeah, I don't mind that for ESPN and most of the people over there. So that doesn't bother me too much. I've got Hulu, so I've been able to watch football. And then, of course, I've been on the road for 3 straight weeks. So at my hotels and stuff, I still have whatever cable or dish that they're using. So I've been able to watch football. So it hasn't affected me, knock on wood. So
it hasn't affected me yet either, because I have Dish Network. That's how I get my apps and everything, is through the Dish Network app. So
hopefully they get it figured out. I mean, eventually something's got to get done, because people need their football.
Yeah, and I am surprised it's lasted this long. I will say this. Usually one of the two buckle. I don't know if it will be. So on Thanksgiving, which games will be on the ESPN? So the Cowboys will be on Fox. Well, I shouldn't say that. Not necessarily. It's not like it used to be. But Dallas and Detroit will not be on ESPN. The Thursday night. Yeah, so the ESPN will just be the college football on Thanksgiving. Because could you imagine if for some reason if Dallas and Detroit weren't on TV on Thanksgiving?
Yep, the Packers Lions is on Fox.
Yep. Okay.
Chiefs Cowboys CBS.
Okay.
And then the Bengals Ravens NBC.
Okay. So yeah, so they're all fine. Now there'll be college. Usually there's college games that day too, or there have been in the past. With that third NFL game, college might have backed away, but they would be on ESPN, and because it used to be like the Egg Bowl was always Thanksgiving night or somewhere right around there. So
yeah, it looks like Navy and Memphis play on Thanksgiving. I think that's the only one. That one is an ESPN game, of course. So for everybody at Thanksgiving, don't worry, you'll still be able to watch those games and everybody can take their naps and do whatever they do.
Yep. Yeah. All right, let's go to the World Series. I know it's been a few days. It is Wednesday, and it ended on Saturday night. But I found myself, which I'm a huge football fan. Now, I love baseball too. But I was watching this World Series, games 1 through 7, over football. Now, especially game 6 and 7, Friday night, Saturday night, and especially Saturday night. Game 7, you had the best players. This is the best part. The best players were making plays. Ohtani, who started pitching. Bo Bichette hit the 3-run home run. Ohtani's coming up. Just the guys were making plays. That's what you loved about this World Series. Ohtani, Yamamoto, who ended up being the MVP, was paid $325 million before he made one pitch in Major League Baseball. It's worth every dollar. Mm-hmm. Everybody's like, well, how do you do that? Well, this is why. Why does Ohtani get $70 million a year? Because this is why, what he did in the playoffs. And this shows that the Dodgers were able to flip that switch. We talked about that off and on. We don't talk a ton of baseball, but during the summer, I think just a few times we did, will the Dodgers flip the switch? They did. Now, the Blue Jays gave them everything they had. Vlad Guerrero is a star. Ernie Clement, whoever that is, never even heard of him, stud. A couple inches here or there, a couple plays here and there. Dave Roberts pushed the right buttons. That was his critique for a long, long time, was he never did the right buttons. He pulled the pitcher too early. He left him in too long. I found it funny, interesting. Game 7, you've pitched a lot. You have the 4 best starters. And he just said, screw you, bullpen. We're going with the 4 guys that start for us. He went from Ohtani to Glasnow to Snell and then to Yamamoto. And I had forgotten about this, but in 2020, when the Dodgers beat the Rays, Snell and Glasnow were on the Rays. And the joke was, if you can't beat them, join them.
Right.
But Dave Roberts, if he was going down, he was going down with his guys. And that's all you can ask for. And him making that switch in center field to put Andy Pegas in. And then one play later, he's running over there making that catch, World Series saving catch. If that ball lands. The night before, if the ball doesn't get stuck underneath, or the guy just reaches in and grabs it, even if it is stuck, if he reaches in there and grabs it, game's probably over. Rojas hits the home run in the bottom of the 9th. Guy you never even heard of, second home run of the year. And then his play at second to get him out by 2 inches at home because of a bad leadoff. I mean, it's little things in baseball. That's what was great was I was able to go and show Tyler, this is why you have to get a great secondary. This is why you know, just all the little things mattered. And, you know, the Blue Jays had a couple dumb base running errors, you know, where they thought it was a ball and they were jogging in or stood in there, got picked off in different games. Throw strikes, you know, hit the ball hard. That's the Blue Jays hit the ball hard and hit the ball. They don't strike out. That's how they were able to get so close. You feel for the Blue Jays because they did everything in their power.
Yeah, they probably feel like they should have had it, and I think most people believe that they should have. I mean, as you mentioned with the Dodgers, you know, I'm not a big baseball guy, but if I was a manager of a team, that'd be my theory. We're going with our best guys. It's Game 7. I want my best guys out there. I just that's the football in me. The best players should be playing, you know, on the field. I know baseball can be a little bit different because they got the pitch count and, you know, all these different things, analytics, and I think he kept it simple, as you mentioned. Yeah, it was a great World Series. The ratings were through the roof, and that, from what I've heard, I believe that's just the numbers in America. We don't even know what the numbers in Canada were, right?
Well, they said half of Canada was watching.
Okay.
Now, obviously, it does not, like when they do TV ratings, it doesn't say Canada, but just half of Canada was watching, which is like 5 million people. It's not a huge number. But yeah, the Blue Jays just have to be beside themselves. And here's the other thing is, are the Japanese players showing the U.S. players what can be done and what should be done? Yamamoto threw 96 pitches the night before and came back and threw 3 innings the next day. Now he has all kinds of rest, but you can do that. Ohtani's playing pitching and hitting and is almost the best in the world at both. Now, Yamamoto's probably better than him pitching now, but 2 years ago, he was, before his last Tommy John surgery, he was the best hitter in the world and the best pitcher in the world. Now, don't kid yourself. That is God-given. Both of those. All that is. But do the U.S. players need to start doing that? Not having POs, pitchers only. Just because 99% of the pitchers played shortstop and was the third batter and had the most home runs on their team in high school, maybe even in college was that. And then somewhere along the way, we decided they just don't need to hit. They're great athletes. They played shortstop. They played center field their whole lives until college or the pros, whatever they decided to do. Those guys are all great players. They don't just forget how to hit. Now, when you stop practicing it, it goes away. I understand that. And then, you know, just our appetite for the National League, you know, where the number 9 hitter is almost a given out. You sacrifice. That's the other thing. There's a lot of people criticizing the Blue Jays manager. If he would have just squeezed that last guy in with 1 out, you either would have won the game or he gets out of home, but then you have the bases loaded with 2 out, you know, or 1 out actually. So there's small balls still dead. It is still home run city. But the Blue Jays definitely made it where you don't have to have the best players. However, this is what I did see this. So the Dodgers spend 74% of their revenue on their players. The Blue Jays spend 71%. Now, the difference is the Dodgers make a lot more money, so they spend a lot more money. But they are spending almost as much money ratio-wise as the Dodgers. And I think that's what needs to be. And baseball might be in trouble next year. There's going to be a real, after next year, the collective bargaining agreement ends. And so there's going to be a new one. And there's going to be a lot of people wanting a salary cap. I don't think there needs to be a salary cap. I think there needs to be a basement. Like, teams have to spend this. There should not be players in Major League Baseball that make more money in 1 year than entire teams spend on their entire roster. That is not correct. The Twins should have to spend whatever,
70%.
Yes. Yep. 70% of your revenue. And that is different for every team. I understand that. But yeah, everybody has to spend 70% of their earnings on players. Now, that still means the Dodgers are going to spend more because they make more. The Yankees are going to, and that's okay. But you have to spend 70% or whatever number you want to come up. I don't care. But you shouldn't just be pocketing money just because you don't want to spend any money.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be a good idea. And going back to your first point with the Japanese players doing it all, basically, I'm going to tie that into the NBA too. The best players in the NBA right now are all foreigners. Yep. And they come over and it's just team basketball. They keep their head down. There's no drama with most of them. They're not getting in trouble. Whereas the domestic players, John Morant and some of these other guys, it's all AAU. It's all specialized positions. It's me. It's not about the team. And, I'm not a big baseball expert, but I'm guessing that's probably the way you were talking with our domestic product with baseball players is you got to pick a position, right? When you go to college or you go to the MLB, and it's, I think over in Japan and Europe for basketball, it's like you just do everything. And I think America used to be like that with a lot of their sports, and they're great athletes, right? The Bo Jacksons and the Deion Sanders and stuff like that. So I think that kind of ties in together. I think it's a good point. And then, as you mentioned with the spending, yeah, we know that the Dodgers they make more money, but there should be a basement, whatever it is, 65, 70% per year should be spent on the players. Because I know there's some organizations out there, I think like Pittsburgh Pirates are notorious for being cheap. They should have to spend, like you said, a minimum amount each year on their roster.
Yep. Yeah, it's just make it a little bit. The problem with, and the NBA is getting this way just because of super teams, but there's only a handful of teams that can win the World Series. There's only a handful of teams that can win the NBA Finals. Football's different. The Chiefs are on a run right now. The Bills are on a run right now. The Ravens have been. I think they're falling off a little bit. But every year, there's some team in the NFL that makes a run that didn't make the playoffs at all last year. And then the team that made the Super Bowl, more likely than not, the next year doesn't even get to the playoffs. That's how fragile football is. And it's because they want it that way. They want all 30 teams to have a chance. Doesn't matter if you're in Green Bay, Wisconsin, a town of 60,000, or LA.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned 30 teams in the NFL. There's 32, but you could throw two out with the Jets.
Two of them are off
because they don't even really count. But let's I know we're going a little long. Let's maybe do like 10 minutes on the NFL. But You're right. Each year a bunch of new teams make the playoffs. We call it the League of Hope because there's going to be new teams that make it, teams that fall out. Washington's a good example. They made the NFC Championship game last year, and their season's gone to hell. The Commanders most likely are not going to make the playoffs, and there's a lot of people that pay attention to roster construction, more than I do that I keep up with. And they thought there was an argument that last year Washington had the argument for one of the worst rosters to ever make a conference championship, that they overachieved. They were ahead of schedule. They won a bunch of close games. Their fourth down percentage was, through the roof. So a lot of people thought there'd be a regression. Well, there has been, especially with the injury to Jaden Daniels. So, yeah, the NFL is great. Now, how many teams can win the Super Bowl versus make the playoffs? That changes things. But, this year, I don't know if there's a great team in the NFL as of yet. I think the Rams and Eagles look really good. The Seahawks do. Of course, the AFC, I think the Bills, Broncos, and Patriots all look really good. Now, they've all got some weaknesses, too. I think Kansas City's going to get it fixed, and they'll be in the playoffs. I think the real story is, for most people that we know, is the NFC North. Now is, technically it's a 4-team race right now. I still think the Packers or Lions end up winning that division. But with the Packers and Lions, crap in the bed this past weekend, and the Bears winning, and of course the Vikings winning, it's a tight race right now in that division.
Yeah, that was surprising with the Detroit and Green Bay going down.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears are doing what they need to do. I think they'd really like to have that Ravens game back. But other than that, they've kind of really done what they're supposed to do. Beat the teams you should beat, and you're probably going to lose to a few games just because you're not quite as good. But just like as we talk about, you're in the playoff talk, and that's where they needed to be this year. And hopefully you're right on that edge all the way through Christmas. And just looking at their schedule, a couple ball bounces your way, you're right there. And that's all you can ask for in the second year of Caleb Williams and the first year of a new head coach and Ben Johnson. That's what you want.
Yeah, the Bears got, they got the Giants at home, which is good. This is one that you have to win later in the year. They've got the Browns at home.
Yep.
As a fan, you pencil that in as a win. We'll see, of course.
Right.
But then you've got 1, 2, 3. You still got 4 divisional games.
Yep.
If you could somehow go 2-2 in that,
yep,
that gets you to 4 more wins. All of a sudden, you're at 9. And of course, there's other games on the schedule. But the good news is Caleb's improving every week. The team's winning games, in the past few years that they wouldn't have won. But that was a crazy ending there versus the Bengals. And Colson Loveland finally broke loose, which is good to see.
Right.
Draft pick.
Which is so. We were in Indianola basketball, and I was, not watching the game, but I was clicking on my score app. And they were up 34-27, and they were about ready to score, and they went up 41-27 with, 2.5 minutes left. Wasn't very much. I turned it off. And then I watched the game or whatever I was doing, and I went back and I saw they won, but I looked at the score and I was like, what the hell happened? Would they win 47-42, I think?
I think that was the score. It was something like that. But yeah, it's that's the NFL. That's why the Bears, if the Bears get in the playoffs each year, especially with this new format with 7-7, there's usually one for sure, maybe 2 teams that make the playoffs that really don't have a chance to get to the Super Bowl or win it, but they're on the right track. I would put the Bears in that category right now. They can make the playoffs because they're in the hunt. But if they were to get in, I think, they're a little ahead of schedule. I would look at next year, maybe being a year that they could go on a run and win some games. But it's a good sign for the Bears, and the Lions and Packers have to be kicking themselves, because if either one of them could have taken care of business, they could have made up some ground, of course. But now the NFC North, like I said, I still think Lions or Packers end up winning that division.
Yep.
But, as I called them the September champs, the Green Bay Packers, everybody's Super Bowl pick after they traded for Parsons, I think they've looked pretty average the past few weeks. The same could be said for Detroit in some situations. They played well against the Bucks, didn't play good against the Vikings. So I don't know if there's a great team yet. It seems like the Rams, Eagles, and Seahawks are kind of pulling away. And then again, in the AFC, the Bills defense is a concern. Patriots are young. The Broncos have a great defense, great roster, but Bo Nix is terrible the first 3 quarters. Yeah. He can't do anything. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league the first 3 quarters. And then the fourth, he turns into Joe Montana, it feels like, and makes a bunch of plays. And then, of course, the Chiefs are the first team out right now. I still think the Chiefs are going to get in. I think the Jags will fall out of the playoffs as the season goes on. But, the Chiefs got some work to do. They've got a bye week, and then I believe they're at the Broncos the following week after the bye. So it's kind of a must win for them to keep pace.
What about the Colts? And obviously they made a big trade. They seem to be like they're trying. Irsay's daughters are going all in.
Yeah, Colts are a really good team. They had a little slip up at Pittsburgh. It's going to happen in the NFL. Yep. You're going to lose some games. You're going to have a bad showing. I really like the Colts. They're aggressive, but the one big thing is, of course, the Daniel Jones. Does he turn into a pumpkin, as the season goes on? And what the Colts have done now, trading 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner, is you better hope Daniel Jones is the man. You better hope he doesn't regress, because you just traded away, two first-rounders, and that limits your chances of getting a top-end quarterback if they need to. So they're basically saying they're going to stick with Daniel Jones, obviously this year, of course, and in next year. He's going to get another sizable deal probably. If I was the Colts, I'd try to franchise tag him, which the Giants should have done years ago and then paid Saquon, but they did the reverse, and it didn't work out for him. So Colts are going all in. Yeah, I know they're, have the best record in the NFL. It's just if the Colts get in, I could see them winning a playoff game, but I can't see them taking down the Chiefs and then the Broncos and then the Bills in the AFC title game. I can't see that happen with Daniel Jones. As much as I liked him coming out of college, I've still seen too many bad games out of him. So the Colts are a classic team of overachieving. Maybe I could be wrong, but they could win a playoff game. I just can't see them winning 2 or 3 potentially.
What do you think? Did the Jets, by trading everybody away and getting a lot of draft picks, do you think they did the right thing?
With the Jets, it feels like the Jets, it doesn't matter because they don't do anything right. In theory, probably. They've got 2 firsts and 2 seconds next year, and then the following draft, they've got 3 first-round picks. So it's a lot of draft capital to have, but you've got to hit on the picks, first of all. You've got to have the right coach. We don't know if Aaron Glenn is the right coach yet.
And now we really won't know now.
Yeah, we really won't know. And a rumor that came out is the Chiefs did offer a 4th-round pick for Breece Hall.
And they didn't take it.
They
wanted a 3rd. And
probably because I know everybody with power rankings and standings, everybody's hoping that the Chiefs fall off, but the Jets probably know that the Chiefs are going to get in the playoffs, and that 4th-round pick would be a late 4th, closer to a 5th, and that's why they wanted the 3rd. So that's probably why that deal didn't get done. But yeah, they sold off, arguably their 2 best players on defense, of course, and they're going to have to hit on draft picks. They're going to have opportunities, but given the Jets' history, they'll probably mess it up.
Yeah, I agree. I feel bad for Breece Hall, but I do understand why you have a draft pick that you want for a player that's really good. Breece Hall's good. He is way above average NFL running back. He's not the best one, but he's way above average. And they had a draft pick they wanted. They weren't going to let him go for less than that. And you do have to agree with the Jets in that. Now, if you're the Chiefs and you think that's your missing piece, which I don't know if it is their truly missing piece, but he sure would have helped them. But, I was talking, the guy I teach with every day, Kyle, he's a Chiefs fan. He's like, if you go get Breece Hall and you want to give him the ball 20 times, that means you're taking the ball out of Mahomes' hands that many more times. Now, Breece Hall is pretty good out of the backfield as a pass catcher as well. But, if you want to hand it to him 15 times a game, that's tough to do when you have the best player in the world.
Yeah, well, I mean, that game versus the Bills, Mahomes was getting hit left and right. I mean, a running game would have helped, but Andy Reid's DNA is throw the ball. And I agree, Mahomes is obviously one of the best of all time, but Breece would have been a nice addition. For the Jets, they have a lot of pieces on offense ready for when they bring in a rookie quarterback. They've got Wilson at receiver, Breece Hall. Now, Breece Hall is going to need given a contract. And then they've got Mason Taylor at tight end, the rookie that looks like he's going to be pretty good. They've got their tackles set. So whatever rookie quarterback they bring in is going to have some nice pieces around them. And I think that's why they were willing to trade away their defensive players to keep their good offense and try to rebuild the defense, of course, after they get their quarterback, then fill in the defense again with draft picks. But, yeah, I would like to see Breece Hall in the Chiefs. He definitely could have helped him. But I also understand, as we talked about a while back, the Chiefs do have to be careful with their draft capital with players getting older because they're going to have to start hitting on draft picks too and getting younger players. So if they traded for Breece Hall, they'd have to give him a contract after the season or he'd walk. So that's another thing that factors into it.
Yeah, because this is the last year of his deal, I'm pretty sure. So that was, and maybe the Chiefs, offered that and maybe wanted a little bit of a guarantee. He is from Wichita, so I would assume he's a Chiefs fan or a Cowboys fan. I mean, those are the kind of right in between there. So it's close to home. So, but is what it is, and it didn't happen. And yeah, you're waiting for the Chiefs to go on a run, and they just can't quite do it.
I'm still not counting them out until they're officially out. That's my theory. But I know so many fans out there are just fingers are crossed they're not going to make the playoffs. I can't do that until they're officially eliminated.
Yeah, because if they get in, and they might be a little bit like the Dodgers and just flip the switch.
Yeah, if you're Pittsburgh or the Colts or something, you don't want to see Kansas City coming to town. And Pittsburgh, there's another team. I don't know if Pittsburgh is going to end up winning that division. I know they beat the Colts, but the Ravens have a chance to go on a run. And Pittsburgh's schedule, the remainder of the season, is brutal. So that's something to pay attention to. The Ravens are actually favorites to win that division right now, even though the Steelers have a lead. So that's that's just something else to pay attention to there with those two teams.
All right. Anything else, Trev?
No, I'll have my power rankings next week.
Okay.
I'll get that updated. I'll do that again. Probably should this week. And then next week, I didn't tell you this yet, but I'll send it to you maybe on Tuesday, and then the power rankings on Wednesday or something like that. But I'm going to do a first round mock draft this week, and I'll use the current NFL draft order, no trades or nothing.
Okay.
But I'll do the current NFL draft order. I'll do the players' names that are hot right now this time of year. Of course, a mock draft now compared to February, March is going to look a lot different.
Yep.
But I'm going to send you one, 1 through 32. And then there's some teams not picking in the first round. I like the Packers. I'll throw a pick in there for them as well. Just so people can see some names that are being mentioned right now for the NFL draft.
Who's the number one draft pick right now?
Well, it's going to be between Mendoza, Simpson, or Moore out of Oregon, most likely, because whether it's the Saints or Jets that end up with the first pick, they need a quarterback. Now, if Tennessee ends up with it, then you're looking at, an edge rusher, an offensive lineman or something, or maybe a trade down. But probably one of those three quarterbacks as of right now. Which
one do you like the best?
I kind of like Moore out of Oregon, but they're all three pretty close for me. Ty Simpson, I think, might have a little bit more upside.
That's who I would go with out of those three.
Mendoza out of Indiana is probably the safest pick, if you want to call him that type of deal, but maybe not the highest ceiling. Right. But Simpson or Moore, I think, have the higher ceilings of the three.
I don't think he will, but if Arch Manning comes out, when does he get drafted? He's playing better.
Yeah, no, he is. That's a good point. He is getting better. I think he's got to go back because I think if he goes back, he'd be the first overall pick potentially the following year if he keeps improving. But if a team like the Steelers are picking there at 20 or 22, would they take an Arch Manning if he came out? Maybe, or would he be an early second round pick? But those first 4 or 5 games, he was looking like a 5th rounder undrafted to me, even though he had another year left. But he's getting better, which is good, and that's one thing we got to remember is these young players and college teams, just like the NFL, players and teams are allowed to get better as the season goes on, that goes back to the expanded playoff. You can lose a game or two and still have a chance to get better and make a run at it.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Trev. Welcome back. We'll be back at it next week. Either continuing the hope talk with Hawkeye football or the hope has died. One or the other.
Nope, that's right. If it's a loss, then Iowa might be looking at, I know it's not called the Outback Bowl anymore, but whatever it's called, it's always the Outback Bowl to me. It forever will be.
Right. It's like Iowa State's staring the Liberty Bowl right between the eyes.
Yeah. So hopefully we got some good news for both the teams. And then of course, basketball will keep digging into the basketball season as it's getting started.
All right. Talk to you later, Trev. Thanks.
All righty. Have a good night.